Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 117 of Screw the Commute podcast. We got Gina St George here. I've known this lady a long time, and she's going to show you how to use systems and processes to run your business more smoothly and keep you from burning yourself out. So we'll hear from her in a minute. Our last episode, 116, Andy Sokol was here, and he's still got some of the same clients for 20 years. All right. So he's a client retention expert, and he started his business on a totally shoestring budget. I don't want you to miss any of those tips that he's got for you. There's some really great lessons in that episode. All right. Our podcast app is in the App Store. You can also go to screwthecommute.com/app. And we have instructions on how to use it. It'll do all kinds of cool things on your tablet or your cell phone. Take your favorite episodes with you and all kinds of good stuff. So check that out at screwthecommute.com/app. Now, our on-demand TV show is now current on Roku TV. If you've ever heard of that, some of you may have a Roku television that's already set up for Roku. If not, you can buy a $40 box at like Walmart or Best Buy or anywhere that sells electronic stuff, or on Amazon, and get thousands of channels. And people like us can make channels now on these on-demand things. So our first channel is up. It's called the Public Speaking Channel, and it has over $100,000 in training on professional and public speaking. So check that out. And we'll also see us soon on Amazon Fire, which is another type of on-demand service. And we'll be developing other channels like Brutal Self-Defense and Protection Dogs Elite. Those are other channels we have coming, and, of course, internet marketing stuff. So check that out, Roku TV. Now, our youth program is going where we're looking for entrepreneurial youth. And when I say youth, I'm saying up to maybe early 20s. If they're older than that, they might be candidate for our regular podcast, but we want to feature young people on once a month on our podcast. So if you know anybody that is entrepreneurial, young person, have them contact me at orders@antion.com. That's orders@antion.com. Of course, it'll be in the show notes. And they might be able to be featured on an episode in our special youth program. All right, today's sponsor is the Distance Learning School, the Internet Marketing Training Center of Virginia. Don't even think about retraining yourself or sending your kids to college until you check out our webinar on higher education. I do not want you wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars and putting yourself and your kids under crushing debt. And we'll have that webinar in the show notes at screwthecommute.com, or you can go directly screwthecommute.com/webinars. All right, let's get to our main event. Gina St George began her career as a chemical engineer, and she was designing manufacturing processes. Later, she moved to business process design and was assigned to troubled business areas that she turned around and grew them by sometimes up to 7 times their productivity. But after burning out on corporate life, she became a partner in a small business and learned that the reason small business owners are overworked and have a hard time scaling their business is that they lack these systems and processes that she's so good at creating. So today, she's a speaker, author, and consultant to small businesses, helping them grow their businesses and get their lives back. Gina, are you ready to screw the commute? I don't want Andy coming and beating me up because I taught him how to do it. So, yeah, so good to see you. Good to hear from you.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So tell everybody what you're doing with these, how you're helping people now, and then we'll take you back earlier to that dreaded JOB and see how you got out of it.
Well, what I'm doing now is what I had to figure out a way to take all the things that I learned in a big complex organization and scale it so that it could be applied to small businesses. That was actually something I struggled with when I first started, was how do you implement processes and systems in a way where you don't overburden a small business?
That's one thing I wondered about when we were going to get into this topic, because in a big business, you got 48 people. You can say, okay, you do this, you do that, you do this. And sometimes you're just pointing at yourself when you're a solopreneur. Like, how do I get this stuff done?
Right. But a lot of it also can be outsourced. But in order to outsource effectively, you have to define what needs to be done.
For sure.
And because, and that's something I learned the hard way, because I outsourced things without defining them well, and you don't get what you really want when you don't define it very well for someone else to do.
You get whatever they think that you meant, and then that's not you could be back and forth 10 times if you're not clear with people. And some of the places we outsource to, I tell people, you got to be extremely clear and pretend like they're a second grader, because then English might not be their first language if you outsource out of the country.
That's true. That's true too. So, one of the things that I teach is that first you design processes, the systems support your processes, and then you train people. And if the people are not employees, which for a lot of small businesses, they're not, you actually have service providers that do certain things that you do.
Right.
That's the final piece where you've already defined what it is you want and what outcome you want from the task that person is doing. And it makes it easier if you do it in that order to get what you want.
All right. So give us an example of that in a small business.
In the customer service,
Okay.
In customer service and selling, this was something that my business partner, when I first became a partner in small business, he was excellent at selling, really, really good, and he knew how to take care of his customers. He just had an innate feel for that, because that's just how he's wired, and he's very good at it, and he's very good at the customer care, and all the customers love him, and he was just really good at it. What he had a problem with was duplicating himself.
Right.
And so what we had to do was we had to say, what exactly is it that you're doing? And he had never done this. So I had to take him through the process of defining step by step, what exactly is it that you're doing in your sales interaction with a customer, and exactly what are you doing when you take care of a customer after the sale? What exactly are you doing if you're dealing with a complaint? What exactly are you doing? So we defined that. And
that's called the process?
That's the process.
That's the process, okay.
The system, if you think about it in terms of method versus machine, this is one of the things I talk about, man, material, method, and machine, as the four pillars of operations, of operating a business. Process is your method. System is your machine. So in a lot of cases, your system is software, but software all by itself doesn't get you what you want. So because you need to have a process to bring that system to life, because when you begin with it, it's just a shell. It's a framework. It has a lot of potential, but until you bring it to life by designing your process and putting your process inside of that, it's just a piece of software. And that's why so many people subscribe to a piece of software and they think it's the answer to every problem they might have.
Right.
And they never get anywhere with it. And then they cancel their subscription and you go back to where they were. I'm sure you've seen that.
Well, yeah. And thinking about your partner there, some things just software are never going to be able to do. I mean,
yes.
Software is not the voice inflection when they're having trouble and you're sympathetic and empathetic to it. Software doesn't do that. It just says, okay, do this, and it's cold. So how did you take what that guy was doing and get it into something that somebody else could duplicate?
Okay. So after process is system. And so in sales, you have different types of CRMs that are available out there.
Yeah, tell everybody what that stands for.
Oh, sorry. Contact resource management.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how you stay in touch with your prospects and your customers. And so, and there's many out there. And when I work with customers, I don't ever tell them to trash whatever system they might already have. There's certain ones I like that I will recommend if they have nothing. But I will usually work with whatever they might be using. So now you actually put you populate your system with the data associated with your customers and your pipeline, and your system then supports you because you can set reminders, you can run reports, which is also part of your process. And then the final piece is you train your people, which is the man part of man-machine method material. So you train your people, and your people now understand the process, and they understand what you do and why you do it. And then they understand how the system supports that. So they know what kinds of reports to run. The software reminds them to do certain things. And that's how you duplicate a really good salesperson. So that you as a small business owner, so many small business owners do all the selling. And so that's how, and if you're going to scale your business and you're the only salesperson, you're going to have a really hard time.
Right.
So duplicating your ability to sell by having other people selling is vital to you being able to grow. Duplicating operations where other people are delivering is a great first step. But when you're able to duplicate the selling process, then you can really skyrocket.
Yeah, it's probably easier to duplicate the production, right? Because they don't have to, you don't have to be a personality. You're not dealing with the customers directly. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement. That's easier to duplicate and systemize than the sales process.
So that's where you suggest people start if they're brand new to this concept.
Yes. Well, one of the things that I have found is that a lot of times people will throttle back their marketing because they're afraid they can't deliver. So the best thing to systemize is your delivery. And then you can feel confident that when I sell, I can deliver. And when I sell, I can deliver more, as you scale. So when you're confident that you can deliver what you're promising, now you can confidently market, and your marketing message will be more authentic, because if you're not sure of your ability to deliver, that's going to come through in how you present your offer.
Very great concept. And it's something I need, because I'm kind of the chief cook and bottle washer and do everything. I mean, I like it and I don't have to do it, but I enjoy it. But it's really something that if I was incapacitated or just, wanted to disappear, things definitely do slow down, even though we have a lot of recurring income things set up. But nobody, sells like me. So it's something that me and a lot of people listening to this are in the same boat. It's their personality, and it's them that's doing everything. So it's great. So let's take it back to the beginning. Like, I know you had a job, but let's take it way back. Like high school, college. Did you have jobs then, and how did you come up through the ranks?
I got my first job, my first real job, like with an actual like pay stub when I was 15. I mean, before that, I mowed lawns and babysat.
Yeah, where was this?
I grew up outside Chicago.
Okay.
And
I bet you're glad you're not there today.
Yeah, Florida's a better place to be this time of year.
Yeah.
Although I do have a home in Michigan that sits vacant during the winter.
Yeah. And, who would want to be there?
I actually love it a lot, but this time of year, like, after the first snow, I'm like, okay, that was really pretty. Okay, now I'm done.
Right.
So, going back to high school, I worked at Burger King for my very first job. That's one of the places that you can get hired when you're only 15.
Okay.
And then I worked at the big grocery chain in the Chicagoland area. It's called Jewel, and I bagged groceries. And then I got promoted to checker. So I got to learn all the different lettuces and produce and how to scan, and that was good.
Do you know how to squeeze a melon to tell if it's good or not? I've always been fighting with that in my life.
I didn't work in the produce department.
Oh, okay.
So I was required to be able to identify all the produce so that I could charge people for the correct thing.
Oh, okay.
So I know the difference between endive and escarole lettuce.
Oh, you got me there too.
So I did that, and when I went to college, I had always been good at math and science, and so I majored in engineering. I got a degree in chemical engineering, and when I was in college,
Now that's a highly dominated male industry.
and it was even more so back then.
Mhm.
Because I graduated from college in 1992.
Okay.
So I was in college from 88 to 92. And, you know, it's funny that you say that because as I came up in my career from college and then as a young engineer and as I got into management, et cetera, people would comment on that and talk about how, how do you do as a woman in such a male dominated field? And my answer was always that I really didn't think about it that way. I thought about myself as a person who was just being competent at my job. And I always led with competence, and I didn't let the other things bother me.
Yeah, but you have to have a special kind of mind because I dated a girl who had 3 engineering degrees, a chemical and I don't know, a couple other ones. And we butted heads all the time because she wanted me to load the dishwasher so perfectly. And like it was a marching band in the dishwasher, and that didn't last too long.
I'm not nearly that regimented.
Okay.
And I work. I live with someone who is not a linear thinker like I am, and so I've learned to be more flexible.
So it's like a yin yang kind of thing, maybe.
Very, very much. And you know what? Actually, being with someone like that, if I was with someone who was
Just like you?
totally like me, I
Another
think we'd have
machine
no
gun?
fun.
I didn't tell everybody about the machine gun.
Oh, I am. That's right. You call me machine gun.
Yeah, she can talk. She talks at 150 words a minute with gusts up to 220.
and I shoot questions at you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, before I can think about the answer to the first one, she hit me with 10 more. So okay. So you did you do well in engineering school?
I did, and so the job that I did in college, throughout college, I was actually a math tutor.
Oh, okay.
So and that was a great job to have because you could work for an hour at a time. They assign you students, and you could meet them in different places on campus, and that was a job I did throughout. You know what? Because I did that, not only did I learn how to do calculus, but then I tutored calculus for the remainder of my time in college.
Wow.
I could probably still do a lot of calculus problems.
All right, but I got to ask you this. Because I didn't know this about you. This new math that they're trying to put on people, do you know anything about that? I mean, people are making fun of it online. They're showing a side-by-side screen of doing a simple math problem. And the old way, it's done in like 2 seconds. And the new way, it takes like 5 minutes to get the same answer. So
that's called Common Core math.
Oh my God.
And,
Who thought this up?
I don't know. You know what? We're getting into like a completely different area here, but my opinion is that I really think that maybe somebody meant well with it, but maybe there's a part of me that believes that they made math so difficult to learn because they don't want kids to believe that they can ever be good at math. And I remember a joke that I saw. It was posted on Facebook where somebody posted their kids' homework, and the dad wrote on the homework saying, "I have a master's degree in engineering, and I can't solve it the way you're asking."
So yeah, it's not a joke. It's real.
It's not a joke. And actually, the governor of the state of Florida just this past week has eliminated Common Core math. So the state of Florida is going away from Common Core math and back to the previous methods of learning math, like you and I learned.
Oh wow, yeah. So all right. So then, so you got a job out of college, then, right?
Yes, I did.
And what was that?
My first job, I did project work for building chemical plants, and so we were designing and building very large installations. So you're talking about like a $300 million construction project with all the different disciplines of engineering. So I did the process design work, and then I worked with the other disciplines. The mechanical engineers work with the rotating equipment, and the civil engineers build the buildings and put in the foundations. and the electrical engineers do the control systems. And so that in and of itself enabled me to learn about how different things work together to make a nice symphony.
Yeah, that's where you cut your teeth on all this stuff. So
That's right.
Fast forward to when you decided that, hey, I'm tired of this. I want to start my own business. Did you transition? Did you save up money? Did you just stop one day and quit? How did that transition come about?
So what happened for me is that the last thing that I was doing in my corporate career, I was doing a lot of acquisition work. So I was working for a company that was buying a bunch of other companies. And this was very valuable experience for me because I got a lot of insight into how operations are evaluated by big companies, which changed the way I think about my approach to small business, because I know if you want to be bought, what they look at in being able to, in putting a value on you, and whether or not they're even interested in having your business if you operate the right way. So I did a lot of that, and I flew around, and I was away from home a lot. And I've been in 46 of our 50 states because I traveled a lot when I did that. And I found myself getting divorced, and basically I realized like how much of my life I had allowed my job to consume. And I decided that it couldn't be that way. That I just wasn't going to have my life be that way. And I made that decision. I remember the night.
Before or after the divorce?
It was after. I had just moved. I let my ex-husband keep the house and almost everything in it. And I decided that I wanted to downsize and simplify my life. So I moved to a condo, and I didn't have any furniture yet because it hadn't been delivered. So my very first night on my own, I was in my condo, and I got dinner at Subway and unwrapped my sandwich sitting on the floor of my living room because I had no furniture.
That's starting over, I'd say, I guess.
Yeah, it is starting over. And I remember thinking, I am so accomplished and I'm so good at what I do, yet this is my life. And I knew in that moment that something needed to change because I could not continue living like that. So what I did was I started seeking, and I tried to figure out what it was I wanted to do. I invested in real estate. This was in 2006 when that was a really hot thing to do.
Until 2008, right?
And then by 2008, I wasn't doing that anymore. And then I wrote a book. I wrote a book on leadership because that was a skill that I had. And so basically what I did was—
But you're still working at the time or not?
I was.
Okay.
So what I did was I laid a lot of groundwork for my exit.
Over what period of time?
Well, for me, because I had the false start in real estate, over what period of time? It was less than a year. By the time I decided I was going to do something different, and I was going to use my business systems, process, and business growth skills that I was going to apply to small business. So I laid that groundwork by working evenings and weekends. I did a lot of my work sitting at a coffee shop on Saturdays. And so I did a lot of that. I didn't give up my income immediately. And when I had enough of the groundwork laid, then I said, in order for me to do well at this, I have to do it full time. And that was when I left. But I was ready.
Right.
So
right.
I didn't just one day haphazardly quit my job and give up my income and then say, okay,
like
now
an engineer would do. You plan and you make sure things are right.
Yeah.
So
I was responsible about it.
Right. So how did it go? And how was the initial startup of the business?
Actually, it went very well. I was able to.
What was the business anyway?
What was the business? The business was. There were two things. Part of it was I was immediately consulting on small business growth.
Okay.
And systems for scaling a business.
Well, when you say immediately, how did you get clients right off immediately?
I did that in two different ways. Some of it was just contacts that I made through networking.
Okay.
But part of it was I got business through private equity firms, because since I had experience doing acquisitions, I would do evaluations of small businesses that were being acquired.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked for the buyer of that business. So I did the evaluation on the buying side for the small business that was selling.
Did you put out any products on how to set your business up so that it's saleable? Is that part of your systems and processes?
It is. It's actually, you know what? I could probably do a course only on that. Thank you for the idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking, because that's extremely valuable, because most small businesses, including my own, for many years, is just sell stuff and, take the money and sell some more stuff and take the money, but no real exit strategy.
Yeah. So I actually offer that as a bonus in other courses that I have. But I've never done a course only on preparing your business for sale. I should.
I really think so, yeah.
That'll be the next course that I create.
Great.
So I was able to do that kind of stuff immediately. And then I became a partner in an existing business. It was actually two businesses. One was a litigation support business that did document management, copying, scanning, and all kinds of trial prep related activities. And then the second business was a shredding business. And so I became a partner in both of those businesses. And so as far as that is concerned, I was one of my early clients. So I actually had my own business to work on to systemize and scale.
Yeah, beautiful. So anything crazy, funny happen along the way?
The funniest thing that happened, and this happened within the first year that I was there.
On your own, you mean? Or a partner, you mean?
Yes. We had, in document destruction, a lot of times your customers are government entities.
Okay.
Because they have things that are confidential and need to be securely destroyed. And we had a contract with Broward County, and specifically the Broward County Sheriff's Office. And they had a document hold order, which means you're not just allowed to destroy anything because of litigation.
Okay, right.
And that document hold order had lasted for 7 years. And for 7 years, they destroyed nothing. And you can imagine how many records get created by an entire county
right.
Over the course of 7 years. And so their document hold order had been lifted. And so they wanted to destroy 7 years worth of records all at once. And it was near the end of their fiscal year. And it had to be done and invoiced before the fiscal year was over. And we had 4 weeks to do 7 years worth of shredding.
How many millions of documents is that?
Well, they don't count it by documents, but
they do it by the pound or something?
In truckloads, we charge by the box. But in terms of, well, just to give you an idea of the scale of it, over the course of 3 weeks, we invoiced something like $75,000.
Oh.
So it was a lot of boxes. And so talking about systems to be able to scale an operation, knowing that we had very limited time to do this, and knowing that we had only so much equipment, and we also had to service our regular customers, and because of the regulations in that industry with all the background checking that you have to do with employees, we couldn't just staff with temps. So what we did was, this was my system, my process. So we had the route drivers go out. The first thing they would do in the morning is they would go to the recycler and dump the load of shredded paper. First thing in the morning, they'd run their routine route, what had been scheduled for the day, and then they would dump the truck again at the recycler, and they would bring the trucks back to our location empty. And so what we did was we lined up all the trucks and we ran all of them simultaneously, because normally the trucks are out, the shredder is on board the truck, and so the truck is out doing the destruction wherever at the customer's office.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So we brought all the trucks back to our facility, and overnight we operated all of them simultaneously until all the trucks were full. So we were shredding from like 6 p.m. until about 3 o'clock in the morning, and we did, and then in the morning, all the trucks were full, and so the drivers would go out and they would take the load to the recycler, do their regular thing, and then we'd do it all over again the next day. And so that was what we did over the course of it was like 3.5 weeks that we got all of it done, and we were able to complete the job. Oh, so this was actually really funny. The county did not want our trucks at their facility because they were afraid if there were shredding trucks at their location day after day after day after day, shredding 7 years worth of records.
They're hiding something, right?
Yes, they were afraid that the news would start asking questions about why they were doing so much destruction. So we were fetching pallets of boxes by the truckload, and then they were also delivering them to us at the end of the day. And so day after day after day, this was our system that we had set up, and we shredded a lot of paper.
I think I could have done this job in 2 days. I would have just driven over the causeway and dumped them in the ocean. I don't know if that would work or not, but you still
then we would have been lying about the fact that we actually shredded all of it.
In jail, yeah. But oh wow, what a crazy situation. So how do people work with you? What would they if people needed this kind of help? What kind of things do you have for them?
Well, I actually have two main things that I offer. The first is my general how to scale your business. And so this is for people who have an existing business, and we can look at all of your processes and systems and put in place what it will take to get your life back, because a lot of times business owners do too much and they're wearing too many hats, and there are a lot of things that they could automate or outsource and they don't know how. So we systemize, get your life back, and you can scale. Another program that I have is I offer for people who are getting started, laying a lot of the groundwork so that they can actually get started knowing that they have systems in place so that they can confidently market knowing that they can deliver. So that's similar but different, because it's for people just getting started.
Right. Yeah, imagine you get into some businesses and you say, well, let's look at your processes and systems, and you look around and there aren't any. It's just fires put out everywhere.
Well, let me tell you something. In doing the work that I've done with private equity firms, I have seen businesses that have, $35 million in revenue per year that operate off of spreadsheets and written logs. I'm not lying.
I totally believe it. I totally believe it, knowing how, businesses just kind of grow organically without thought much, and if the orders come in, you take the money, and a lot of times these processes and systems, I imagine, get pushed to the background, just trying to keep afloat. So where would they go to we're going to have links to all your stuff in the show notes. So what do you have? Is that where these are described, these systems and these programs?
Yes. I'm also on Facebook. I have a page there. My handle is Business Dragon Slayer. I use that because my last name is St. George.
Yeah. Okay.
And so most Americans don't get that. So I'm going to explain that St. George was the knight that slayed the dragon.
Who was St. Bernard?
I'm not sure.
I know, because
actually, was there a person named St. Bernard?
No, I mean, when I was in Maryland, I went by this church and it was called St. Bernard. And I thought, I'm laughing like it's got to be some joke. Yeah, there's a St. Bernard somewhere. I don't know what he does.
Look that up, who St. Bernard was.
Yeah. So
other than it being a really big dog.
Yes. So Business Dragon Slayer, that's your handle at Facebook, all right?
Yes, and then you're going to have links in your show
In the
notes
show notes
to my offers.
to your offers and so forth. So that's great.
And I offer a free consultation for anyone who is interested in having their business evaluated, and I can assess how I can work with you.
And you speak on this topic too, right?
I do. I do a talk on the pillars of business operations and how you can actually lay a stable foundation so that you can grow and be stable and be confident moving forward. So I have a visual where I talk about the 4 pillars, and then I stand on a chair and talk about how stable the chair is and how it wouldn't be if it didn't have all 4 of those pillars.
So did you ever fall off?
I have yet to fall off the chair.
I didn't jinx.
But it always scares the event promoter,
yeah.
especially when I jump up and down on the chair.
Oh. All right, well, we got to take a brief break for our sponsor message. Then we'll come back and we'll ask, as we always do, what a typical day looks like for Gina and how she stays motivated. So today's sponsor is the Distance Learning School, the Internet Marketing Training Center of Virginia. That's imtcva.org. And, of course, that'll be in the show notes with all this other good stuff. Now, let me ask you, folks, do you know what colleges and universities are doing? According to gradeinflation.com, they're raising grade point averages to make it look like they're doing a better job of teaching when there's a mountain of evidence that says that they aren't. So I really want you to watch the eye-opening higher education webinar at screwthecommute.com/webinars to potentially save yourself and possibly your loved ones, friends and neighbors, hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt when you go for higher education. But I got to warn you, be prepared to be mad when you see some of the things these places are doing to you and your family. So check it out at screwthecommute.com/webinars. All right, let's get back to Gina St. George. She's a process and systems expert with a long history of success in this field. So now that you're on your own, Gina, what do you like working for yourself the best, and what's the worst part?
The best thing that I like has to do with animals. I really like that we do have an office, although I do a lot of work without going to my office, but I get to hang out with my dog all day.
Yeah. I got 2 German Shepherds looking at me right now saying, come on, get rid of her. Let's go play.
Isn't it cool to be able to work with your dog?
I love it. I do. I love the animals so much.
I enjoy that. And several years ago, after I rescued my Doberman, who I still have, I learned about the whole world of animal rescue, and I became a kitten bottle feeder. And this is something that not just anybody can do, because kittens who are orphans and aren't weaned yet, they have to be fed every 2, 3, 4 hours, depending on how old they are and how big their stomach is at the time. And so you need to keep them with you. And so a person with a normal job cannot do that, because a normal job, you can't take kittens to work with you.
Right.
So between the fact that if I go to my office, I can just take my bag of kittens with me, or I work at home, I can feed kittens. And over the course of the last many years, since I started doing it back in 2014, I've probably saved 200 kittens.
Wow. Congratulations.
And so I love that. I can't save every cat in the world, but the ones that I'm able to, I do. And it's its own reward because they love you. The kittens that I rescue grow up to be great pets because they've been handled a lot by a human from the very earliest time of their life. And so that is actually like not even a business thing, but that's like the thing I like most about what I do now, is that I get to have my pets around me, and I actually get to contribute to the lives of other animals.
Well, the worst part is probably you can't, when you have to work, can't have more kittens around.
The worst part, actually, it's hard for me to think about what the worst part is.
Yeah, me too.
Because there's, initially, when you're used to going to an office and interacting with people, at first maybe that was hard, but today you have meetings using, these video conferencing tools. And so I'm around people all day. They're just not in the same room.
Right. And my standard thing I tell people that miss the corporate life is to just go buy a water cooler and stand by it and gossip to yourself.
That's right. There you go.
So what's a typical day look like for you besides the kittens?
Besides kittens, I think
and do you always have kittens, or just whenever the need is there?
Kittens are actually seasonal because cats reproduce seasonally. Mm-hmm. And so kitten season begins in Florida. Kittens actually start showing up in March. But there's kittens coming out of your ears come July.
Oh, okay.
And that continues through like September, and by October it's drying up. And usually if I continue doing it, I'll have my last foster right before Christmas.
Okay. Wow.
And then I get a break.
Now, I know you've done some RV travel. Do you take them with you on the road?
That's the best thing about having an RV is that you bring all the animals with you. And so if I'm bottle feeding kittens, they just come with us.
Beautiful. That is so nice. That's truly lifestyle business right there.
It is. It's very, very, very much. That's one of my favorite things about it.
All right. So how do you stay motivated? I mean, kittens would probably keep you pretty motivated, but if things aren't going perfectly in the business, how do you stay motivated?
The biggest thing that motivates me is I'm a pleaser. That's just kind of how I'm wired. And I adamantly believe in keeping my promises. And so once I actually started getting hired for stuff back in the beginning, I was motivated by making sure that if I made a promise that I was keeping it.
Right.
And so today, one of my biggest challenges is continuing to deliver while at the same time marketing. So balancing those two activities, because you can't stop marketing, but then you have to deliver because now you have customers. But I am motivated by the fact that people count on me. Yeah. Kind of like how I'm motivated that I have a kitten counting on me.
Well, they even say a lot of people that volunteer and elder people, they live longer because they're totally focused on somebody else rather than their own aches and pains. So it's a great thing. And then I use a little variation of that because I make a big deal about I'm going to do something and I publicize it to the world. And then I'm like, hey, I'm too embarrassed not to do it. So I'll scratch and crawl, do whatever it takes to get it done because I don't want to look like I'm just a big BS dreamer, so no. It's just a variation on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do not want to be a liar. So if I've promised something, I will deliver it.
You're awesome. I wish there was more people like you in the world, that's for sure. So thanks so much for coming on. It's been great catching up with you.
It was wonderful talking to you. It's been too long.
I know. No, we're going to have to get back together, and I think there's going to be some excuses maybe for you to be up in the area. One of the kids has got a job up here, so maybe we'll get together when you get up here. So thanks so much for coming on. Everybody check the show notes. And, every single business on here needs this kind of stuff. Either if you're starting a business, boy, it'd be so much easier if you did it right from the start. Let me tell you, folks, because so many of us just get thrust into this and gung-ho, but then we end up making a big mess that Gina's got to come in and clean up for us or help us clean up. So if you can do it right from the start, perfect. If you're already into it, everybody, including me, and there's multiple systems and processes in any business. So it's not just fix one thing, I imagine. Right, Gina?
Of course not. Yeah. I mean, marketing is a system, delivery is a system, customer service is a system. It's you have many different things.
Exactly. So anyway, check out all her stuff in the show notes. Please download the Screw the Commute podcast app at screwthecommute.com/app. This is episode 117. So if you go to screwthecommute.com/117, it'll take you directly to the show notes for this episode. And next episode, I'm going to tell you the ins and outs of broadcast email. This is still where the big money is in the internet marketing and business field. So if you get a chance, subscribe and review over at iTunes, and I'll catch you on that next episode. See you later.